Good morning.
Good morning.
We'll be reading out of Genesis 25, 19 through 34, page 28 in our Bibles. We're going to be reading about the story of Esau and Jacob and how Esau sells his rights as the firstborn son. All right, here we go. Isaac was the son of Abraham, and he was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, the daughter of Bethuel. She was also the sister of Laban, the Aramean from northern Syria. Almost 20 years later, Rebekah still had no children. So Isaac asked the Lord to let her have a child, and the Lord answered his prayer. Before Rebekah gave birth, she knew she was going to have twins, because she could feel them inside her, fighting each other. She thought, why is this happening to me? Finally, she asked the Lord why her twins were fighting, and he told her, your two sons will become two separate nations. The younger of the two will be stronger, and the older son will be his servant. When Rebekah gave birth, the first baby was covered with red hair, so he was named Esau. The second baby grabbed onto his brother's heel, so they named him Jacob. Isaac was 60 years old when they were born. As Jacob and Esau grew older, Esau liked the outdoors and became a good hunter, while Jacob settled down and became a shepherd. Esau would take the meat of wild animals to his father Isaac, and so Isaac loved him more, but Jacob was his mother's favorite son. One day Jacob was cooking some stew when Esau came home hungry and said, I'm starving to death. Give me some of that red stew right now. That's how Esau got the name Edom. Jacob replied, sell me your rights as the firstborn son. I'm about to die, Esau answered. What good will those rights do me? But Jacob said, promise me your birthrights here and now. And that's what Esau did. Jacob then gave Esau some bread and some of the bean stew. And when Esau had finished eating and drinking, he just got up and left, somehow showing how little he thought of his rights as the firstborn.
You know what I like about this story is its honesty. They don't paint some of the early families of the Bible as lovey, 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 always getting along, no sibling rivalry. They paint them as human beings with all the complexities and messiness that we find in our families today. There's more to the story though. And some of you might know it, of where Rebekah tells Jacob, who is her sweet little boy. Come on, go to your dad. He can't hear very well, he can't see very well. Let him think that you're Esau, and so you can get the special blessing as the firstborn. So Jacob puts on, I think it's like goat's hair. And he says, Dad, do I get my blessing now? And the father says, this is Isaac. Who is this? It's Esau. Oh, okay. Well, come closer. Okay, let me feel you. Nice hairy arms, right? Because he was a manly man. Nice hairy arms. Okay. And then he gave him his blessing and birthright and everything else. Well, when Esau found out about this, you think he just said, oh, no problem. It didn't really mean anything to me. I'm happy for you. We just love each other. No, they were your typical brothers, right? I'm going to kill that guy. So Mom says to Jacob, I think you better get out of town real fast because your brother wants to kill you. Go to my uncle's place and you can find some safety there and you can stay with him and maybe work for him. So that's what he does. And then of course the story even gets more interesting. I'm not going to go into that part, but it seems like cheating people and putting a fast one over them is a family trait in the family of Rebekah. And so anyway, It goes on and on and on, and they do wonderful things and they do not such wonderful things. The most important thing, though, is that there's finally reconciliation. After all these years that have gone by, and Jacob knows he's done wrong, really, really wrong, he arranges to have a meeting with his brother. And this is after his kids are kind of, fairly grown, and he knows that he could die very easily because his brother might bring a whole army with him and just wipe him and his family out. But he wants to take the chance. He wants to reconcile with his brother. And so he does. And they do reconcile. And that's what the beauty of the story is. It never said that it was going to be easy. It never said that it wasn't going to be dangerous. You don't know what the future holds, but it was something very important to him that he wanted to reconcile. And so, of course, the story continues. I think a lot of you know the story of Joseph, the son of Jacob, whose father made him a very fancy coat, not coat of many colors, bad translation, but it was a very fancy coat. And Dad really liked him the best. Now, he was not the oldest. He wasn't the youngest, but he wasn't the oldest. And Dad would often send him out in the field to kind of look at the brothers to check up on them that they were doing their work. Now, think that you have a brother or a sister that does this to you. To go out and see that you're doing your job the right way. How do you think you would feel? You think you would be just thinking, oh, I just love my brother who's always snooping on me and then squealing on me and telling Dad or Mom whether or not I did my job the way I should. I don't think you would be that popular, right? You wouldn't. And that's exactly what happened. He would go, Joseph would go out to the field, check on his brothers, and then give Dad a blow-by-blow account. And sometimes it wasn't very positive. And so the brothers really, really resented him. And so one day, he went out there, and he told him about his dreams, that all these cattle were bowing down to him and stuff like that. That is not the way to really make it popular with your brothers, right? Or your sisters. And so, it's like, we've got to get rid of this kid. He's really trouble. Now, of course, the initial reaction, let's just kill him. And then one smart brother, I think it was Levi, I hope it was Levi, because he was the one that was the father of the Levites, which became the priests. No, I don't think we should do that. Let's just put him in this pit, and there'll be this caravan going across the way there. And what we can do is we can sell him, get a little money. So that'll be fine. So that's exactly what they did. The caravans came by. Hey guys, guess what? I have a brother for sale. And so they sold him to this caravan, and he ended up in Egypt. And so then what happened, being the happy family that they were, there was this horrible famine. And it's hard to forgive a family that did what they did to him, right? Definitely. So there was this horrible famine. And so he became the one in charge of the storehouse of grain because they had plenty of saved up grain in Egypt. And so some of his brothers went to Egypt to look for some supplies, some grain in particular, and Joseph recognized them. Seemingly they didn't recognize him, but he recognized them. And he took compassion on them and really cared about them and was worried that they were really in a bad situation there in Canaan and that they might have even been starving. And so, of course, he provided the grain that they needed and eventually let them know who he was, invited them into Egypt so that it would be a much better place to live. And that's what got the family into the Egypt story that we have in the Exodus, right? Now, again, this is a story of gross treatment and reconciliation. And that's really what we need. We often do not always get along with our siblings. We don't often get along with our parents or our children or even some of our friends. And there are broken relationships that we all suffer from. promises that there is reconciliation that needs to be on both sides. Especially when you've been hurt. You've been hurt deeply, especially by a close family member. I have a friend who has a sister. And for many, 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 many years they weren't speaking to each other. And this is the way the story goes. My friend was dating this naval officer. Very handsome, very dashing. And, oh, she just thought she was the luckiest girl in the world. She was very young at the time. And so they had been dating and everything else. And then when he'd come back to town, he would always take her out. And she thought, wow, I really got myself something good. And then what happened? The other sister, a younger sister, was coming home from school, and he met her and dropped her so fast and started dating the other sister. Now, that's not very loyal, is it? I mean, especially because that sister did know that she had been dating him. Is that the way you treat a good friend or a sister? I don't think so. But then she started dating him, and then eventually they got married and had kids and all that sort of thing. And my friend was not speaking with her sister at all. How dare she do that? It's like humiliating. And so then he started two-timing the sister. Especially because he would be away for long, long periods of time. And he was off in other countries. He was away from home. And he started fooling around. And she found out about it from a friend whose husband said something to her, and then she confronted him, and he said, yes, it's true, but that's the way men are built. We can't help ourselves. Really? She bought into it, and was crying and didn't know whether she was going to leave him or stuff. And then when her sister, my friend, got wind of that, everything changed. Because he did to her what he did to my friend. That was his character. That was his nature. That was who he was. And she's the one, my friend, who initiated the contact after 20 years, hadn't spoken to her sister in 20 years, and said, I am so sorry the way I treated you. You know I was really angry. I found it really humiliating. You taking my boyfriend, and now he's done to you what he did to me. And she said, I know what you must be going through, because I went through this myself. And if there's anything I can do, if there's any way I can comfort you, if you want me to, if you want to spend some time over at my place, you're more than welcome to. And the two sisters, after 20 years, reconciled and became friends for the rest of their lives. It isn't over, people, until it's over. There's always hope. And if you've been wronged by someone, if you've been hurt by someone, reconciliation is still possible. What is so wonderful for those of us who are in a faith community is that we have these biblical stories which are so beautiful. They're open and they're honest. They're not like some of the garbage we learned when we were kids in school about these perfect presidents like George Washington and Abraham Lincoln, who never told lies or anything. The Bible is full of messy families doing all sorts of things that even you might not think of. They cheat each other, they lie to each other, they slander each other, they do all of these things. But they also have shown us that even in spite of everything that's been done, reconciliation is possible. And so I titled my message today, So You Think You Have Problems? Read your Bibles. Read some of the stories, particularly in Genesis. Oh my gosh, the stuff that people did to each other. I mean, I could go on and on and on about some of the things that families did in the midst of their concern for each other, but also sometimes a little bit more concern for themselves. And so we, as believers, know that we are reconciled through Christ. Amen.
Amen.